Hello and welcome to Retrotainment. Back here with my co-host, capital C, capital O, Greg. How are you doing, buddy?
What's happening, homie?
Nothing much. Just rewatching one of these
History.
old classic sports films, which is the genre we've decided to go with for this month, Sports September.
This is, in fact, the greatest sports movie. I'm just throwing that out there.
It's definitely up there. In terms of actual cinematic history, yeah, probably is.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of actual sports,
is it probably the only one that's won an Oscar? No, Ali won an Oscar.
No, a few of them have, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of actual sports, it's questionable how much of a sports film this is to me in certain genres.
Yeah.
I could understand someone saying that this isn't a sports film because it's very minimal on the sport and very heavy on the background and the drama of his life. Yeah.
2 definitely is. 3 definitely is.
I think the further you get into Rocky,
apart from 4.
Yeah,
4 only has 2 small ones.
I think it gets more about the boxing, but in this one it's more about building up. But yeah, obviously Rocky is the one we've gone for, the original Rocky, not Rocky Balboa or Rocky 6 or 12 or 15 or any of those. Rocky 1, the classic, 1976. Although we didn't get it until 1977 over here.
Yeah, it came out, I think, around, was it November or something?
Yeah, I think it came out November 76, and then we got it in July, 29th of July, 1977.
Fucking scumbags.
Which is just the way it was. Although, when I'm thinking of the 70s, I'm like, how many cinemas was there in Ireland in the 70s, I suppose?
Yeah, I suppose. But even then, like, everyone should be given the right to see a movie
straight away, yeah, which thankfully now seems to, well, at least for us is the case. I'm sure there's probably other countries that they don't get them straight away, unfortunately.
That's a shit one for them.
Yeah. No, what a classic film. 93% by 67 critics on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is more than fair because there's a few bits in this that are like, as we said, not a whole lot of sport. And then there's certain bits that you'd probably be like, yeah, I'd mark that down.
Yeah.
The surprising bit about this is the audience score, 69%, really low, which in like a normal sense isn't actually that low. Like that's quite a decent score for a lot of films. Like that's nearly 7 out of 10. It's not an awful score, but
this is Rocky.
This is Rocky, which you're expecting to see quite a higher one. I did look up and try and find some of the bad ones. All I could find was mostly good reviews. There was one 1-star review that said, this isn't a baseball film. That's all the comment they had. So as far as like that should be removed.
This isn't a baseball film.
Well, it doesn't say it's a baseball film. So I'm if I was hoping to watch a baseball film and someone put this on, yeah, I'd be pretty disappointed. No doubt. I don't agree. I don't disagree with what that guy said. I just don't think he should mark this film down because he wanted to watch a baseball film and this wasn't one. That's your problem, mate. Go watch a baseball film.
I don't know. There might be a movie. I don't know a whole lot about baseball. There might be a movie called Rocky.
Possibly, but I still don't think that's a reason to mark down this film.
You just don't leave a fucking comment and stop being a dickhead.
Yeah, that's it. To me, that's just people, and like that's a 1-star one. So so there must be loads of them. I didn't go through many others. One other one I did see gives away a little bit of a spoiler for the end of the film. But if you haven't seen it and it came out in 1970s, that's your problem.
Oh, I know. We won't say it, but I have a feeling I know what it's going to say.
No, I will say he disliked Rocky didn't win. That's his dislike. That's why he dislikes about this film. So 2.5 stars. Rocky didn't win. That's it. That's what he dislikes. I mean, okay, but
my brain hurts.
Does that negate the rest of the film? Maybe. Apparently, for this guy, it did.
What a dickhead.
Yeah. So I disagree with.
I think we need to do a Jay and Silent Bob on this and find everyone who gave it bad ratings and go visit them.
Yeah, I think so. But box office 225 million, which is
1976.
Yeah, brilliant box office for something at that stage, especially since it was turned down so many times before.
17 times
before someone finally decided they'd produce it. Now, the reason it was turned down is not because of the story; it was because of Stallone insisting that he was the
main character,
the main actor. He was Rocky, which maybe I can see why people said no. He wasn't a big name in acting then. Now, when you look back now, you're like, how could it be anyone but Stallone? But back then,
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
trying to
see.
think. I'm trying to think in 1976, the actors that are around, who could it have been?
I think it's hard to look back now on something like this and be like anyone except Stallone.
Yeah,
Um,
well, like his acting progressively got a hell of a lot worse.
yeah, I think this one he does very well in, to be honest.
This one he
Considering this is
does. Yeah.
probably his. I'm trying to think, did he have anything big before this?
No,
So
this was his big break.
yeah, so fair play to him. He stuck to his guns until it finally got
Yeah.
made, and then somebody finally was just like, "Fine, you can be the main
Well,
actor," and it worked out
he
well.
wrote it. Do you know what I mean? He
Yeah,
wrote it.
he wrote it. It's all his idea, so fair play to him.
Yeah.
Like he could have made just as much money probably, and just not being the actor in it.
He got offered 100 grand or something.
Yeah,
I think was one of the offers that he got, but he wasn't allowed to be the main part. So I think from some of the things that I read, I think he accepted like a 10 grand payout
yeah,
for the screenplay, and then he took royalties off it, which have
which
probably paid him dividends.
to no end. Sure,
Yeah.
Rocky's still one of the biggest names in the film
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah, look, he's still making them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And now they might not be called Rocky. They might be called Creed now, but they're still Rocky. Like it's still
under
all
that
based off him.
franchise.
Yeah, exactly. It starts off quite innocuously, just him in this small boxing club. There's probably a big crowd here for this, to be honest. This seems like a relatively big crowd for this small boxing club.
I love how the opening scene is Jesus's face.
Yeah.
And you're like, what kind of movie is this? And then you hear the bell ringing and you're like, oh.
Oh, okay. This little boxing scene is quite good, but I like that, he gets sent to his, like they go to their corners and he just doesn't listen to anything the corner man says. The corner man is like, now I think to win this fight, you should, and he's like, water. And I think,
he's a
mouth
dick,
guard, he's just not listening. And it looks like he's getting battered around, and you're like, you should probably be listening to that corner man because you are getting smashed here.
He gets absolutely stitched the headbutt as well.
It's when he gets hit the headbutt that it just switches. He's just like, right, I'm going to batter this lad. And he batters him and has him on the ground and is still battering him. And you're like, I think that fight should have been stopped a little bit before that. That guy was out cold and you were still pounding him.
Spider Rico.
Yeah, he's still battering him on the floor. You're like, maybe stop that a little bit earlier. That guy was definitely out cold. Like,
but see, around this time, you're saying there the crowd's probably a bit big for this fight. This would have been around the time that Joe Lewis was, Joe Frazier. He was coming off the back of an Ali trilogy fight in the 70s.
Yeah, I know boxing was big at the time, but you see their payouts for at the end, like
70 quid.
Like he gets 60 quid, which after paying for his gym and being able to shower there and his locker and then taxes,
48 quid.
It's like 40 quid. And the other guy who lost gets like 40 quid, which gets dropped down to like 20. Yeah. So, it's not like this is it's not even like they're getting 100 or 200 quid. Like they're getting nothing. So that's why I was kind of like, that seems like a big enough, like there was quite a few people there, like that sort of thing you'd expect, friends and family at.
Well, no, I'd say with around Philadelphia, obviously Joe Frazier being the world champion at the time, probably being in Philly, everyone was getting into the boxing scene and you go wherever. But that could have been a night of fights. That could have been 10, 15, 20 fights.
Well, there's another fight going on after him, to be fair. Now, the thing is that they are the same locker room when they get back. So you're kind of like, it's not a big time show anyway. The two boys are sitting in the same room.
Yeah, no, it's not a big time show at all. But
but I like it as an opening scene. It gives you an idea of
he's raw.
Like what sort of life he's living. Like there's a reason he's not a big time fighter. He doesn't listen to anyone. He just does his own thing. You can see how down on his luck he is as well, because we see him go back to his apartment, which seems to be in kind of this. It's a rundown apartment in like this rundown area. I love the guys singing on the way home. They're actually deadly.
You're getting better every year.
Yeah, those guys are deadly. Like they are really good singers, to be fair to them.
They did a barbershop quartet.
They should have, yeah. But he goes home and then we see him feeding his turtles and his goldfish.
Cuff and Link and Moby Dick.
Yeah, Moby Dick. Come on, I'll bring your friend Moby Dick over to see you. Now, why they're not all together at the start is.
Do you know those turtles were still alive up until about 5 years ago?
Yeah,
I don't know if they still are.
Probably still are. Turtles live forever.
Cuff and Link, yeah.
But we see him then go to the pet shop to buy more turtle food, and this is where we see he's basically enamored with the shy girl who works in the pet shop, which is obviously Adrian.
She's a bit of a dickhead as well, though. Like, I know she's really shy and whatnot, but man's trying his best. He's telling her jokes. He's telling her about the dog food or the turtle food. The last turtle food had too much moss in it, not enough flies. They get stuck on the back of their throat.
And he had to shell shock.
Yeah. Like, he's trying his damnedest here. Like, give the man a chance.
He is, but I think the whole point is that she is just like
she's crippled shy.
She has like no confidence in herself, and she thinks he's just taking the piss out of her.
Yeah.
Which we don't know at that point, but we kind of learn throughout the film that that's how she's been made feel by her brother Paulie.
The dickhead.
Yeah, he is a dickhead. Yeah. But we then see him go out and do his day job, which is collecting money for, I don't know, is it meant to be like a local mobster or just a loan shark?
He's a loan shark, because do you remember Mickey says it to him?
Yeah.
He says you became a leg breaker for a 2-bit loan shark.
Yeah. The thing is that he's not. Like, he works for the loan shark, but he doesn't do, like, he intimidates people, but he seems like he just doesn't want to break anyone's thumbs or anything.
Goes out, told me to break your thumbs.
Yeah.
But he has a fair point here, though, when he's talking to Gozo after it.
Yeah. If I break his thumbs, he can't work, then how's he going to pay? You don't need to worry about that.
What are you going to do next? Break his legs?
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of shows his compassion that he's like, yeah, I'm a fighter because I like boxing, where there's like, some sort of, respect in the whole thing.
Yeah, well, like it shows very much like he fought Spider Rico, who stitched him a headbutt. He's boxing the head off him on the ground. The two of them sitting 10 feet away from each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing. Like, he's not, like, he goes to work for a loan shark just because he needs the money and it's the only thing he can do. But
yeah, people know he's a boxer as well. So
yeah, and it's, he doesn't want to, like, he's not out there doing anything, to be a criminal or anything. This is just the only way he can figure to make money.
Yeah, well, you do what you have to do.
Yeah, but then he goes back down to the gym and we see Mickey has given away his locker, and I love he goes to open the lock, it doesn't work. He takes off his hat, which has his combination in it, tries it again, it doesn't work, and then he just smashes it open and opens it, and it's like, oh, this isn't mine.
Yeah, we moved you, we bagged it and put you on the hook.
Yeah,
put me on Skid Row.
Yeah, and then he goes out to Mickey, and Mickey's like, "You're a tomato."
Yeah.
Which I'm not really sure what that means, but he's like, "You've never had your nose broken in a fight. You should retire."
Soft. I'd say it means he's soft on the inside or something.
I think so. It's like he does say to Rocky, like, you could have been good, but like, you're not.
You don't listen.
Like, you don't listen. You've never had your nose broken. You're lucky. Retire now. Kind of a dick.
Mickey is a dick.
Yeah. What I do like is the guy in the ring then turns around as he's walking off and he's like, "Your locker's real nice." I mean, it's a standard locker, lads. It's the same as all the other ones.
It's just taking the mickey out of him.
Yeah, it's quite good.
I love how he's like, "I've been coming here for 6 years, and 6 years. Digger needed a locker. Could have given him another locker."
Yeah. What about any of there was like 12 lockers with no locks on them there, lads. Just give him one of them.
I always used to think that he just didn't pay him and he just didn't want to say it.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. But we then see him walking home and he kind of like, there's some girl just hanging out with these lads.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Come on." Yeah, they don't really get into this other than that he walks her home one day. I love the little speech he gives her, you hang out with smart kids, you get smart friends. You hang out with yo-yo kids, you get yo-yo friends. And you're like, why was that even?
And then he goes, I'm going to say a bad word here. You're going to become a whore, and people will just remember you as a whore because you humped everyone's brains out. Okay, she's about 12.
I think she references the fact that she is 12.
Yeah.
I think she says like he says you're 12, and that's all. People won't remember you; they'll remember your reputation.
No, he's not wrong.
He's not, but like the bit that got me is when he was like, "You hang out with yo-yo kids, you get yo-yo friends," and I'm like, "What the hell?" That was their defining characteristics. They used yo-yos. There was the smart kids, the nerd kids, the sports kids, and then the yo-yo kids. That's how big yo-yos were in the 70s, lads. There was a whole gang of yo-yo kids. That's it.
Standing on the corner of the shop, or standing on the corner shop steps.
Just yo-yos, all day, every day.
Yeah, I love how she takes everything he has on board just as she walks in the door. She, "Hey, Rock, Screw you, creepo.
Yeah, I like that because it just shows that she has no respect for him, and that's kind of the way everyone is. No one seems to respect him.
Yeah, I think he knows her brother.
Yeah, he does say that, but then we never meet anyone that's like her brother or anything like that. There's no other reference to it.
It's just him. I think it's just to show him he's trying to help people.
Yeah, he'll do stuff to help people, but nobody seems to respect him.
Yeah.
Then he goes to this local bar where Paulie is like, "Who broke this mirror?" And he's using the smallest bit of this mirror to like comb his hair in.
He's so funny.
Yeah.
And I only rewatched it there today. Like, funny enough, I sent you the picture. I went through my Facebook memories today, and it said that I watched Rocky this day 7 years ago.
That's your new tradition. Once every 7 years.
I watched it. No, I've watched it a few times since then. But I watched it again today, and like nowadays, that scene, right? If this is made now, is him doing coke.
I don't know, because all he's doing is brushing his hair. It's kind of weird.
Well, that's what I think. It's just because if you look at his character, he's a down and out alcoholic. I think Possibly. It's not implied in this, but I think he is more than just an alcoholic in this movie.
It could be, yeah. I don't know. They just kind of show him like brushing his hair, which I don't know why, because he goes straight home after this. But they go back out and they're at the bar, and then he asks, can you get me working for the loan shark? And he's just like, no. You just keep working your job in the meat factory, which, if you already have a job, why are you going to try and get a job with this loan shark? Like, the loan shark is paying Rocky like 20 quid a day.
Which is probably a lot back then, though.
It probably is, but I mean,
he'd take a few slaps along the way as well.
Yeah, like Rocky can do it because he's a big boxer. Like, what are you, like? Who's going to be intimidated by you walking up to them?
I love how he's like, yeah, I can do whatever. I can break bones. I can do this. No, Paulie, you can't.
Paulie, you can't even you can't do anything. You're useless. But then he goes home, and we see them watching Apollo on the telly with the barman, and the barman doesn't think much of Apollo.
How could you not love Apollo? It's pretty much Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I think what he dislikes is the way Apollo kind of presented himself as, because Apollo at one point in that interview is like, don't try and get into sports, do. Use your brain and stuff. And it's like, he's kind of saying to steer away from the sports to people. And I think that's what the barman is meant to dislike. He's like, oh, that guy doesn't really love the sport. He's just doing it because it's something he can make money from. I think that's what the barman's meant to mean, but they don't really go into it much more than that.
Yeah, and then Rocky says he took a shot and became the heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah. Why don't you ever take a shot and the barman just takes a shot?
But the man owns what looks to be a half-decent bar.
It always seems to be busy. Yeah. Always seems to be busy.
Especially on fight night.
Yeah, very busy on fight night, yeah. But yeah, it then cuts to Apollo, and we find out that his opponent has gotten injured.
Al Green.
Yeah, and nobody else will fight him. What about this guy? Retired. What about this guy? Put on 50 pounds.
And then the other lad's in France. He's fighting that same weekend in France.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I don't care who you are, if you're in shape, right, and you get offered a shot at the world title.
In 5 weeks.
In 5 weeks, you're taking. So that guy's fighting, right? He says that guy's fighting the same weekend. So he's had a training camp ready, right? And he's now fighting in France. It's not that much harder to fly back and fight the world champion.
I suppose it's a long flight, especially back in the 70s when you think about it.
But still, you're going to lose 2 days, 3 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're
possibly
fighting for the world heavyweight championship.
Yeah, true.
Or middleweight championship, whatever they were fighting for.
Whatever it was, yeah. But I also think it's strange that they're like, that guy put on 50 pounds. And you're like, that's a lot to put on. Like, is this guy retired, or what's the story with him?
He went down to California and put on 50 pounds.
Yeah, it's like, wow, that guy must be done. Like,
yeah.
Or he's moved up a division, maybe. Maybe that's what happened. But there's no one
Butterbean style.
Yeah, there's no one there to fight him, and he's just like, right, I know what we'll do. We're coming up to one of the biggest holidays of the United States.
It's America's big holiday, really.
He says that. But then
it's coming up to Thanksgiving.
That's what I thought. But then I don't think that is the case, as we find out a little bit later in the film. But he's talking about like that the fight's going to be on Thanksgiving, which it's definitely not.
Yeah, it's on New Year's.
Yeah, so I don't read like they probably should have fixed that a little bit better. But
Well,
it's around New Year's or whatever anyway, and he's
well,
like,
no, the fight is January 1st.
yeah, so like which isn't a big American holiday, so I don't really get that. I suppose he's thinking from the promotion side of things, it's coming up to Thanksgiving.
Unless the original fight was supposed to be on Thanksgiving.
No, because they do say it's 5 weeks out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, but either way, he's like, listen, we'll just get some local fighter, and I'll fight him, and then it's like I'm given the chance to this is the land of opportunity, all that sort of crap.
The only other thing I can think of there is from Thanksgiving to New Year's is 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's the chance he's given someone on America's big holiday.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think is that's when they're going to release it. So they go looking for who we have, and they're like, what about this guy? Nah, he's too old. What about this guy? I don't like the look of him. And they eventually
in the paper.
Well, I don't think it's the paper. I think like this is like a book of registered fighters. I think because it seems to only be boxers that they're seeing on every page. So it must be some sort of register.
Yeah, maybe.
But then he stops and he's like, this one, the Italian Stallion. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, and of course an Italian found America.
Yeah, so then they're like, right, we'll offer it to Rocky, which you're just like, wow, what potluck for this guy? He gets to fight the world champion, and not in an exhibition fight. Yeah, not in an exhibition fight. Just like
he's gonna fight for
the world title. You're like, oh, all right, yeah, deadly.
Yeah, and he's off at the process doing what Rocky does.
Yeah, just
he's on a date. Well, he's on a date.
I don't think he's gone on the date. Well, I suppose maybe we don't really know because it's kind of the same timeline that this is happening. But
yeah, they go. Yeah, it's.
But like,
there's not a lot to explain.
Yeah, they pick Rocky and they're like, right, we'll go get in contact with this Rocky character, and we'll offer him a fight with you. And the way Apollo's looking at it is like, this is just some local fighter who's had 48 fights, 26 wins or something, and then
20 losses,
20 losses and something like, and a lot of his wins have been knockouts, and they're like, it's not an awful record, it's not great, but it's clearly not someone who's going to be a hassle for this. Nobody's ever gone the full distance with Apollo. Apollo normally knocks people out, and he's like, I'll have this guy within 3 rounds. He's nothing.
Does this remind you of anything really that happened lately in boxing?
Yeah, a little bit.
A slight AJ
and Ruiz. Yeah. Although Rocky's in a lot better shape than Ruiz was. Yeah, there's like Apollo's just looking at this as just a nice little exhibition. I'll go out, have a bit of a laugh. Similar to like to Mayweather fighting. Some nobody. You're just like Mayweather's
Logan Paul.
Yeah, you're just like, he's just going to toy with him and then batter him. It's not going to be an issue, and that's what the story is here. It's going to be easy, and Apollo's just doing it as a publicity stunt, and he's very open about that to the guys in the room with him. It's just a publicity stunt. Like, I have to fight, so we'll just make it an easy fight, but we'll pretend it's giving this guy a chance.
Like, I love here though how his trainer's like, no, we're not doing that. He's a southpaw, not messing with southpaws.
Yeah, because southpaws make it
awkward.
Yeah, they make it awkward and they make things harder. And he's like, yeah, but he's like, look at his record. He's going to be nothing to me, which you can understand. Like, this guy's the world heavyweight champion, never been defeated,
never been knocked down. Nobody's ever gone the distance with him. Nothing. It's like, this guy is a monster. You're like, yeah, why would he be afraid of? Surely in those 40 something fights he's had, he's fought some southpaw. Probably no.
You would think so. Like, out of 40 something fights here, like, he's probably fought a southpaw somewhere along the way, and he has to have come up through the circuit somewhere as well.
Yeah, unless you got one lucky break and get straight into a pro fight. And
yeah, it's unlikely though. You'll probably have sparred with a southpaw at some point in that sense as well,
Yeah.
But yeah, as at the same time all this is happening, Paulie has told Rocky, yeah, come around to mine for Thanksgiving.
You take my sister on a date.
Take my sister on a date. Like, she knows you're coming and everything. And Rocky asks about 8 times on the way, are you sure she knows? And he's like, yeah, she knows. Like, we got to be home by this time, because otherwise she'll call the hospital, which just tells you, the sort of life that they live together. Like, she's constantly worried that he's going to have drank himself into a grave or something.
Yeah, they have a real weird relationship in this. They look like more like married couple than brother and sister.
Sort of, but I see what's happened here is that, the parents have obviously passed away, left them the house, and he's just an alcoholic. And she looks at it as like, if I leave him, he's going to die.
Yeah,
And
pretty
she's
much.
constantly worried that he's going to die because that's why she calls the hospital every time that he's late coming home. Like,
if I'm 10 minutes late, she calls the hospital.
But it tells you like that, there's been times where he's been 10 minutes late and there's been a reason, because that wouldn't be your first thought.
Yeah, call the hospital now.
Not for 10 minutes, like there's obviously been times where she hasn't done that in the past and then he's been in the hospital,
There's definitely a backstory to it that they just don't go into.
Yeah. And you can see how abusive and stuff, and like how he gets back and he clearly hasn't told her that he's bringing Rocky back. And she's like, you didn't tell me you were bringing him back. So she knows who Rocky is as well. Like, obviously, he goes into the pet shop every day. He tells,
twice a day.
Yeah, like he goes in the morning, he goes in at night. And you kind of get the sense that she does like him, but that she wasn't expecting him and now she's nervous. So she goes and hides.
It's hilarious.
It's funny the way she acts, but then Paulie is just like, you are going out with him. I'm telling you, like, you need to go out. It's
kind of creepy. It's nearly like he's pimping her out.
Sort of, yeah. And then she's like, I've got the turkey in the oven. And he just goes and throws the turkey out into the street, keeping a leg of it.
He's some dickhead.
Yeah, he keeps a leg of it, and he's like, if you want to eat the turkey, go out into the street and eat it. And you're just like, that was your dinner as well, mate. You understand?
No,
that,
he has his dinner in his hand.
Yeah, but that was a full turkey. Like, the two of them aren't eating a full turkey to themselves in one night. Like,
yeah, well, you know how Americans are with their Thanksgiving.
Possibly,
they do what we do on Christmas, and they'll drag it out until.
Yeah, but that's my point. So, and like, it's not like he's making a shit ton of money. He can't be affording to throw away a turkey. Like, turkey ain't cheap.
Well, probably is.
No, turkey's not cheap. If you go out and buy a turkey now, you'll see how expensive a turkey is.
No, I know how much it is.
Especially around Thanksgiving in the States.
Yeah.
Like, he's throwing out something quite expensive there and just tells her, you are. And
he works in a meat factory, though.
Yeah, possibly. But she is just like, no, I'm not going out. And he is very much just like, he just says to Rocky, go over there and convince her to go out. And it's like, even Rocky's kind of like, Paulie, lay off. Like,
I'm just going to go.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to go. Like, she clearly doesn't want to. And Paulie's like, nah, she does. Go on.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know how to talk to a door.
Right. This is one thing that I would mark this film down on, and it's nothing to do with them. He's like, I don't know how to talk to a door, right? And what he always does is tell her a joke. He needs to do a knock-knock joke here.
Yeah.
That's marked down for that. That's where this critic score has been marked down, that he didn't tell that knock-knock joke, I think. That's for me,
Yeah. It
would
have made great sense there, yeah.
Rule number one. But, like, it's not that big a deal, And he tries to convince her, and he's like, I can't do this. And Paulie's like, go for it. And we get, like, it's a little bit later we learn this, but Paulie feels that her staying at the house with him has hindered his life. Yeah. But like, he doesn't see it.
Probably saved his life.
It has, and I think that's the whole point, is that she has looked at, like, because she says it to him in the fight later. She's like, I clean up for you, I cook for you, I clean for you, I do your laundry, I do everything. Like, without me, you're nothing. And it just shows that, like, that's the way she views the relationship, is that, he can't survive without her, and he views it as, she's holding me back.
It's a toxic.
It's toxic from his end. Like, she is just, she cares about her family too much, and you can see to him that it's like, she's holding me back. I'd be married and all this and that and the other. And you're like, I don't know that you would. I don't think so, Paulie. Like, you probably, like, you would be dead. Like, genuinely, you'd be dead.
Or if you're married, you'd be divorced.
I think he'd just be dead. Like, I'm surprised that she hadn't killed him by now. Like,
butcher knife to the stomach.
Yeah, she eventually comes out in this, like, hat and coat and stuff, and she's just like, fine, I'll go out, because they aren't going to leave me alone. Yeah, and that's basically it. And there is a little scene here where Rocky goes up to Paulie and he's like, what does she like? And he's like, ice skate. And you're like,
such a random thing, like.
But I think this again shows who, like, Rocky's character. He's like, what does she like? He's not like,
Yeah,
I know
not
what
we'll
she,
just
I
go
don't
for
know.
something to eat.
He's not like, I know enough about her to be able to like plan something. So he's like, tell me what she likes and I'll just bring her there, you know? And
Easy.
he brings her to the ice skating place, and your man's like, it's closed, $10 for 10 minutes.
Bit there now.
Bit dear, yeah. And Rocky's like, how about 8? He's like, it's Christmas. Okay, 9. You'd have the rink to yourself. Yeah, no shit. There's nobody else here, man. Take the $9 and just like let me keep $1. And he's like 10. And it shows again like Rocky isn't rich either, you know.
Yeah, well, we have just seen that he got paid 40 quid for a fight,
Yeah, like
and then whatever he's getting paid off Ganzo.
But we see he got paid 20 quid for that going after one guy one day by the loan shark, and it was 20 quid. So like that's half a day's wages essentially.
And then
for 10 minutes.
And then he gets 50 quid to take her out in a day.
Oh yeah, he does get the 50 quid, which was nice. Yeah, that was a nice touch. This loan shark seems to be really nice to Rocky.
Yeah,
like a big fan of him. Yeah. But he brings her out, and they go ice skating, and she's like, "Are you not going to skate?" And he's like, "Nah, I don't have the legs for it.
I don't move too well." Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that he just kind of like runs around after her, like just
he shuffles around. Yeah.
But this bit's a bit weird because all he does is talk about himself the whole time. He's just like, yeah. So he's taking out pictures like, this is the guy I fought, and you're like, well, you just carry pictures around of these guys that you fought in the past? That's a bit weird.
This guy only pretends to break his finger.
Yeah, and she's terrified. And he's like, what are you messing? What are you messing? This is that for the 70s. This is a great scene because his finger is gone. Like,
yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very well done. And then he pops it back into place, and he's like, "See, no big deal."
But that doesn't happen in anything else. Like, he does not use that ever again. That's not even referred to anymore.
Nope. And that's what I mean. And it looks great. So I don't know, is it some sort of CGI? I don't know what they did.
They glued a fake finger on or something. Yeah,
probably. But it looks very good. And I liked it. But this is the only thing. Like, it's just him talking to her the whole time. And the odd time she's like, "Why do you box?" And that's it. Like,
because I can't sing or dance.
Because I can't sing or dance. And then he's like, my dad told me I have no brains, so to use my body. And then she's like, "Oh, that's funny because my mum told me the opposite." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, what do you mean?" And she's just like, "Oh, she said my mum said I have no body, so I better use my brains." Which, it again shows the life that she lived. Like, she was
sheltered.
Not even sheltered, like even her mum was like, "You're nobody. Nobody has ever got, like, no man is going to love you," sort of thing, is basically the idea that you're meant to be given here.
Yeah.
And you hear it from other, like, from the loan shark's driver, where he's like, she's disabled because she's shy, which, I mean, isn't a disability, but like, it shows how everyone else views her, that, there's something wrong with her. And even Paulie thinks there's something wrong with her.
Yeah, it's just the 70s was just different, though, wasn't it? If you were any way different.
Yeah. But it shows that, like, even her mum was like, you've got no chance with, of finding somebody in the future, sort of thing, because you don't have the body for it. And it just shows, like, this is how her life has been. Like, she's been run into the ground by everyone around her.
Yeah, there's no confidence whatsoever.
Yeah. So, and it's probably a big deal for her to have said that to Rocky. And it shows that, like, his was a big deal, telling her that, how his dad treated him as well.
Yeah. It's like they've built the backstory of the characters here very well.
Yeah, it's a nice scene, and I suppose it does tie into the fact that she's real shy, that he keeps the conversation going. But it's just a little weird that he never really asks her anything about her. It's just him. Like,
you've seen that though, like when he's gone into the pet shop, he's asking her, she just won't answer him.
Yeah, true.
So he knows himself that he's got to have to do this one way.
Yeah. No, true. That is a fair point. And then he's kind of like walking her back, and they go back to his place. And as I was saying to you just before we came on the air, this scene is where I think in the 70s they viewed it, like, when this was being made, they must have thought that, like, this was kind of a romantic, a romantic getting her to come out of her shell scene. Whereas now this scene is very different. Like, it's very much a come into my house, and she's like, no. And he's like, no, come on in. And she's like, no. And he's like, come on in. And then she gets in there, and she's like, do you have a phone?
Although I do love what he does at the door when the door closes. You just see his hand push it back open.
That is quite funny. But like, when she does get into the house, she's like, have you got a phone? And he's like, no. She's like, what do you need a phone for? And like, you can see how awkward she is, and that she doesn't want to be there. And she's like, I need to call my brother so he's not worried. And it is a funny scene.
He won't be worried.
Yeah, and
I'll call him.
It's like this scene is funny where he opens the window and he's like, "Hey, Paulie, your sister's over at my house. She won't be back for a while." And then closes the window. He's like, "There, now he knows." And you're like, "Okay, that's a
They
little bit
obviously live
funny."
close.
I don't think they do. I think that's the point of the joke is that they don't live that close. That Paulie definitely didn't hear that. I
Yeah,
think like, and it's him trying to be, funny, like, oh, see, like, there's no big deal. And he's like, come over here and sit in the sofa. And she's like, no.
there's big bugs in the kitchen.
Yeah. And I think like this is the sad bit, like, is that she does see him, and then she eventually just does tell him, she's like, I'm not comfortable. I'm going to leave.
I'm
And this
pretty
is
sure. I'm pretty sure that she wouldn't have been comfortable even if it was in their house. She's just
yeah,
like,
and I think the
that's
idea,
not taken away from what
yeah,
happens in this scene. But
I think the idea in the 70s was that, she's not comfortable because she's been made feel so bad about herself that she feels she doesn't deserve to be there. I think that was the idea in the 70s. Whereas now it just comes across as she's like, I really don't want to be here and I want to leave. And he just keeps being like, no. And then she goes to leave and he slams the door and she goes to walk the other way and he puts his hand on that wall and like blocks her in.
he has
And it's a very different connotation now. And I don't like that. That was never the idea in the 70s. Like, I just think it was like, obviously it's just a different time, 40 years ago. Or 50 years ago, sorry. Well, coming up to 50 years ago. It's like, it was a different time, so they probably didn't see it that way. Now, this scene would have to be shot very differently because he's like, I'm going to kiss you. And you don't have to kiss me if you don't want to. But like, I'm a big, intimidating guy. I'm Sylvester Stallone. Look the size of me. And I am not letting you leave this house. Like, it's not a great scene now.
No, it didn't age well at all, did it? This is probably the worst scene for the age.
And this is what I thought when I went looking at the comments. I thought that this would be where it got downvoted, where people are like, "That's so creepy."
And I mean, that would make sense.
That would make sense, but then it's again the argument of it was a very different generation 50 years ago.
It's like when we done Warriors in a previous episode.
Yeah,
there's things in that you're like, ugh.
Yeah, but in that they're meant to be a gang, so they are meant to be like these bad guys, whereas Rocky is not meant to be a bad guy.
Yeah, so but that's what I mean. But there's scenes in it now, and you're looking at it going, that might have been kind of okay back then.
See, for the Warriors, I think it's still okay to do those sort of scenes because they're meant to be bad people. I know you root for them in the film, but they are meant to be bad people. So I think it's kind of okay that they have it in that sense. Whereas this makes Rocky's character look very bad. And it's not meant to. And I give it a pass because it was filmed 50 years ago, and I don't think the intention was that it was meant to come across the way it comes across now when I watch
100% not.
I think it's meant to come across as a sweet, helping her come out of her shell scene, which it probably did back then. Now it seems a little bit creepy. Yeah, very much so. But she it does help her come out of her shell, and they form a relationship from it. So like
something comes out anyway.
They don't. It's never it's never shown that anything really comes out of this. But
well, it's said.
It's questioned later, but it's never answered really.
Well, Paulie questions it and then answers it himself.
Later on, yeah. But at the time, the whole point is that she's kind of, she's gained a bit of confidence in herself. And you see that in this film from here.
Yeah,
how she dresses, how she presents herself to the world, and everything changes from here. She's gained this confidence.
Yeah. She knows that she's not whatever and told her she was.
Yeah, but from there we go back to Mickey's boxing club, and he's like, somebody came in looking for you, Rocky. And Rocky's like, oh yeah, who was it? And they're like, oh, some guy who wants you to spar with Apollo. And Rocky doesn't seem to react to this all that much at all.
If I was a boxer and someone told me I'm going to spar with the world champion, I'd be running to that place being like, yeah, exactly. I'll sign up.
But then Rocky turns around to Mickey and he's like, you never did anything for me. And he's like, that's because you work for that 2-bit loan shark. Like, you could have been great. And this is where you start to feel a little bit that Mickey's not a big a dick as he seemed at the start. You're like, he's a dick.
He's still a dick.
You're like, he is a dick, but you can see that why he feels that it's okay for him to be a dick to Rocky, because you're like, he's viewed Rocky as someone who could have been something and threw it away.
Yeah, and he's 30 now.
Yeah, he's meant to be 30 in the film. And you're just kind of like, okay, I can see why Mickey is a dick here, because he feels Rocky's wasted it.
He had
But
a chance, and
yeah, I can see why he feels he's a little bit pissed off with Rocky, but he is still definitely a dick at this point. But Rocky, I love this. Rocky goes off to the thing and he goes into your man and he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to spar Apollo and I'll be real respectful and I won't take any cheap shots or anything." And your man is like, "Okay, that's all great, but like I want you to understand, I am not asking you to spar to Apollo. I'm giving you a world title shot."
no thanks.
And Rocky's just like, no thanks. And he's like, what? He's like, well, Apollo's the best in the world at the moment, and I'm a ham and egger, which is an old term for like a nobody basically. Like
he's a jobber.
Yeah, like you're green, you're a jobber, you're a ham and egger, like you're a nobody. So he's just like, I don't deserve it. And they're like, listen, Apollo picked you specifically. He's watched your fights, which is all this is all bullshit.
This is all promoters.
Yeah, it's all it's just bullshit. Like Apollo picked his name out of a book. He doesn't know anything about the guy, but it convinces Rocky, and Rocky's like, yeah, okay, I'll take the fight if Apollo wants it. I'll take it. And I like this that they bring him out onto the stage, and Apollo's real comfortable in front of the camera, and he's like, yeah, like look at this guy, and I'm gonna fight this guy. America always gives everyone a chance, and
And at least if he loses, he can still cook because he's Italian.
Yeah, and like Rocky seems to be kind of enjoying it, and then they're like, "Do you have anything to say?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Actually, can I just say, I just want to say like hello to my girlfriend Adrian." And we see that he's in the house with Paulie and Adrian, and she's kind of still a little bit uncomfortable that he's gone and said that on national TV.
Why did you say that?
Yeah, but he's just like, "No, I meant it." And then Paulie's like, "Man, I'd be taking cheap shots and everything at this guy saying all that about you." And Rocky's just like, yeah, it doesn't bother me, like he's the best in the world. Like I'm getting lucky. I'm getting shot. Like
I love how they actually disclose his purse as well.
Yeah, they tell him like he's gonna make this much money.
150 grand.
And he's like, yeah, all you have to do is fight him. You get 150 grand. Like, but you may as well take a few cheap shots. And Rocky's like, no, like I'll fight him properly, and I don't care about all the stuff he's saying about me. It doesn't bother me. Like I getting 150 grand anyway.
Pretty sure that this movie is near enough to build up to the Ali Frazier fight. Frazier didn't do anything or say anything really.
Yeah, it's very similar. What I like here is that Rocky, he's in front of Paulie, is like, it doesn't bother me, and then he gets outside and he tells Adrian, he's like, hey Adrian, that stuff that was said on the telly does bother me. And it shows again that he only feels comfortable telling her that
certain things,
like that he's not confident the way he's presenting himself. Which I like, because it builds the relationship just again a little bit, where it's like he'll tell her personal things, but he won't tell everyone else, because he still needs he feels he needs to keep the tough guy persona in front of Then we see him getting up in the morning to like train at 4 o'clock and stuff, but before that we see the loan shark give him 500 quid for training. Like, what's
he's
the story?
A nice fella, isn't he?
Like, what's the story with this guy? He's like real nice to Rocky. He seems to love him. Like, I know Rocky's about to come into 150,000, which is millions in today's money.
But he also turns around and says that you don't have to pay me back either.
Yeah, like that's what I was expecting the first time I ever watched this. I was like, he's gonna give him 500 and be like, "Now you're in my debt." But he's just like, oh, I don't need it back. And he's like, "Oh, you come to watch the fight?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be there front row and stuff."
Ringside, baby.
And you're just like, Jesus, this guy is just like, okay, yeah, he was telling Rocky to break guys' thumbs earlier, but like, this guy's really nice to Rocky.
But that's just his job.
Yeah, he's really nice to Rocky. Like, way nicer than I've heard of any loan shark ever been, to be honest. Never dealt with any, so maybe they are all this nice. I don't know. But I have a feeling
he did tell him to break his thumbs now. I think thumbs are fairly hard to come by.
Yeah, but maybe that guy was a real sleazeball. I don't know. He seemed kind of sleazy.
He owed 200 quid, so.
Yeah, he owed a lot of money.
Is that what your thumbs are worth these days?
Maybe. It makes the loan shark out to be a way nicer guy, because the loan shark is nicer than Paul.
Paulie's a dick, though.
Yeah, but like the whole point, like the story presents Paulie as this guy who's down on his luck, but always trying to make a quick buck. So you could kind of see where like maybe he'd be the nice guy, but it's the guy who's gone out being like, I want you to beat this guy up. I want you to break this guy's thumbs. I want you to do this. I'm the bad guy. Everyone hates me because I'm a loan shark. But I like you, Rocky. So here's
But
20, here's 50 quid to bring out your girl. Here's 20
500
quid for
quid.
this. Here's 500 quid for your training. And like Rocky doesn't spend that 500 quid on training.
He might. You don't know that.
No, he doesn't. He goes out running and then he goes punching meat. This guy's not paying anybody any money.
Yeah, it's hilarious, isn't it?
But
he goes in to get his dinner off Paulie and ends up boxing the meat.
Yeah,
because he has a fight with Paulie.
Yeah, he has a disagreement because this is where Paulie is like, "Have you slept with my sister?" And he's just like,
he says first, he says, "Are you balling my sister?"
"Yeah," and you're just like, "Jeez, man,
that's fucked up."
Yeah, dude, that's your sister. Like, maybe don't be asking that.
And then he says, "Are you sleeping with her?" And he just won't answer.
He doesn't answer, and then he just eventually gets annoyed and just batters the meat around.
But it comes from Paulie asking again about the job.
Yeah, and he keeps
saying he's like, "This is why I won't, because you don't know when to shut up."
Yeah, like you don't know when to keep your mouth shut. Like if you go work for that loan shark, the loan shark will kill you. Like,
yeah.
Although it doesn't seem like the loan shark would. The loan shark would probably just give him 50 quid.
There you go, Paulie. Happy days.
But we see again Paulie constantly taking the little thing of drink out of his every few minutes, taking it out and taking a quick sip, which is where his money is going, which is probably why he does need more money, to be fair.
But like working in a meat factory, I'd say that was a fairly good job back then.
It would have been steady because it wouldn't have been stopping.
Yeah,
you know, like it's a steady income, and you can kind of see it. Like Paulie's house is quite nice, the one that he lives in with the sister. Like, it's quite a nice house.
I love here though where Rocky's hitting the meat and he's breaking the ribs.
Yeah, you're breaking.
And he's
the ribs,
like,
man.
He's like, if you do that to Apollo, they're gonna put us in jail for murder.
Yeah,
and I love how he emphasizes us.
Yeah,
why would you go to jail?
But this is the whole thing, that he views Rocky's success as partly down to him. Like that's how deluded he is. Like, you know, like he feels his sister's held him back forever in his life. He feels that Rocky's success is partly to do with him. Everything is, you know, everything good that happens to someone is because of him, as far as he's concerned.
He's the ultimate sponge.
Yeah, exactly. And he keeps coming to Rocky with ideas like, "I'll help you do this." And it's like, you don't know how to do that, Paulie. Like, how are you going to do that, Paulie? You don't know anything about that. What do you know about breaking thumbs? Nothing.
Yeah, probably not. But he's just like everything. Like he wants in on Rocky's. He asks, "Can he hold a towel, or can he do this?"
Yeah,
because he's just looking to get paid.
He just needs a payday, yeah. Which, to be fair, I can kind of see, like, if he's Rocky, like if he's this close with Rocky, and Rocky's like, "Yeah, I could get him to come in to do something, you know, innocuous. Why not?"
Yeah,
I can see why he's a little bit peeved, but at the same time, it's like, this guy would fuck you over, like.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And he does, like, theoretically throughout the movie he does.
Yeah, like if Apollo came to him and was like, "Spike him with this drink, and I'll give you, you know, 200 quid," he'd do it.
Oh, 100%.
No question.
He'd slit his Achilles for 200 quid.
Nothing like. But we do see that, you know, Rocky just starts his training, you know, and the first day he runs up the stairs, and by the end of it he has this massive stitch. He's like barely made it and stuff like that.
I wonder how far that run is meant to be from his house to there.
Huge, because
probably about 20 miles or something.
I don't know how far it's meant to be, because like I went to Philly, so I've seen those stairs. Those stairs are not that hard to run up.
No, there's only two. It's only 2 or 3 flights of them.
I think there's 5 or 6 flights, but I mean, they're split quite easily. Like, there's a lovely little statue to the left of it.
Of Rocky now.
Of Rocky, well, the right as you look at them, the left as you're at the top of them, sort of thing, of Rocky. And there's a huge queue of people all the time queuing up.
Isn't it that there behind you? Is that not the
No, it's him.
statue?
Like, I can't remember. Does he have his hands up or not?
No, it's not. It's the one where he's like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the one where he's like that. But there was a huge queue of people. I was like, I'm not queuing up to get my picture taken with that statue. I'll just take a picture of the statue. That's fine. So I just waited until there was no one at it and took a picture. But like I went up those steps and stuff. It's a museum and stuff behind them, you know.
Yeah. I love how I think it might be Rocky 5. He says that he's like, "I've been running up these steps for years. Never knew there was priceless works of art in behind it."
Yeah. It's good enough museum and stuff. It's, you know, and like this part of it is a nice neighborhood sort of thing, you know.
It's in a neighborhood, is it? It's not like
like not a neighborhood, but like, you know, it's a nice part of town sort of thing, you know. So it's, you know, and you can see from the film that he lives in kind of the slums. Now that's not to say the slums aren't just 2 minutes down the road either, but by the looks of it, he's running over train tracks, he's running up the road, all this stuff. Like it's a long run sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, no, he could be going all sorts of ways to get there.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, we see him doing the training and he's getting better and better each day. And then he, I like that he after he's done the training and he's gone to the meat factory, he gets home and
Adrian's there.
Adrian's there and she's like helping him take the bandages off and stuff, and he's like, "No, I'm too tired. Just leave me alone." Like,
yeah, she's on the
yeah, like she's looking to like have a bit of fun, and he's just like, "No, I'm too tired" and stuff, and he feels bad then because he feels like he's shut her down.
Yeah, might put her back into that.
Yeah, and he goes over and he's like, "I'm sorry" and stuff. So again, it just shows his character of
I love how he's like, there's none of this during training though.
yeah, like he's very specific about it. But then there we see that he continues training, and then one day she's outside his house with the dog from the pet shop,
Budkiss.
Budkiss. She's like, "I got him to run with you." So the next day he's out running with Budkiss. Now my only problem here is, what happens to Budkiss?
Budkiss is in the second one.
Yeah, but he's meant to be going out running with Butkus every day, and we see him running loads more after this, and he never has that dog with him. What happened?
Butkus nearly dies on the first run.
I know, but like, you think he'd still bring him out for a small bit of a run, We don't really see much of him. We do see that he has a load of pictures of Butkus in his house now.
I love though when like after that run, when he goes with him the first time, he runs to the meat factory.
Yeah.
And like Butkus doesn't go into the meat factory.
Yeah, just sits outside.
But I love how he gets there and he's like,
"What's this television crew?" Yeah, like, what are all these vans? And this is again where you see Paulie trying to make a quick buck. He's like, "Oh, I got these guys here. They're gonna watch your training," and it's like, you're giving away his training secrets, which is a bad thing. This shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it does happen.
It does happen, and they do an interview, and again, Rocky is just like,
don't take any cheap shots.
Don't take any cheap shots, which is what he's all about. He never wants cheap shots taken at anybody.
It's because he knows, like, they've built this that he's not as smart.
Yeah, but like, you can even see it when he went to spar with Apollo. He was like, "I won't take any cheap shots." Like, it's a big deal to him. Like, this is all like, just that's show respect.
Like, that's why he went off on one against Spider Rico.
Yeah, when he headbutts him. Yeah, to him, it's all about just being respectful. Yeah. And he knows he's not smart, so he is just like, don't throw me under the bus, sort of thing. And to be fair to them, they don't. I like, the first time I watched this, I was like, she is gonna throw him under the bus. But she doesn't.
If that was made now, that's what's happening. They're gonna throw him under the bus and show him off to be an idiot.
Yeah, but she doesn't. I do like this, that they're like, "Okay, you just stand over there behind the meat, Paulie," and then they start the interview, and your man's like, "Hey, that meat guy has his head in the frame," and they turn around, and he's just like.
I love this though, like when they're talking, and he goes to start hitting the meat, and then it cuts out to Apollo, and he's like, "Make sure my barber comes in and send roses to the mayor and this person and that person."
Yeah, and they're discussing like, where will we sell the fight to and all this.
The trainer's like, "Hey, Apollo, you want to come and look at this guy?"
Yeah, like, because he sees him, and like, Rocky is just pounding shots into the meat, and they, it's not like he's doing anything overly impressive, but this guy notices. He's like, this guy is training hard. Like, this isn't a joke to him.
He doesn't know it's an exhibition.
Like, he's not taking this lightly. Like, he's coming in here with the idea of that he can beat you.
But he knows, like, you can see it in his face. He knows, like, those shots are body shots all the time.
Yeah, because none of them.
Mickey references it later on as well. He throws body shots like no one else.
Yeah.
But like, he's not throwing headshots to that meat. I know there's no head on the meat.
Yeah, but he's throwing them at the body level. Yeah. What I do like is that while he's doing all this in the interview, your one just asks him before, like, "Where did you get the idea to train with meat?" And he's like, "Oh, it was my idea." "And where did you get the name the Italian stallion?" "Oh, I came up with that
while I was eating dinner."
Yeah, like, it's all just, like, this is all just real simple stuff to him. Whereas they're like, these are great marketing techniques and, great ideas and stuff like this. And this is where things could have gone wrong for Rocky, is because Apollo's training camp did see him boxing. And if Apollo hadn't brushed it off so easily, he would have been able to prepare for this. And the fight would have been very different. But Apollo just is like, "I genuinely don't care. This guy is a bum." Like,
yeah, he knows that he has the fight won.
Yeah, like, that's his thinking. And you can see that later in the film as well. We then see Rocky, at home, and we see Mickey come up, and he's like, "You need a manager, Rocky." And Rocky's like, they get into the big argument of, "You were never there for me." And he's like, "You never asked for help." And he was like, "I shouldn't have needed to," and like, all this, that, and the other.
He has a point here though. Like, it's like everyone's coming for him for money now.
It is, and you can see that Mickey has kind of come for money.
Yeah.
But that Mickey is also like, I was in the position you are, Rocky,
And
and
I
I
got
didn't
fucked
have,
over.
and I got fucked over. I know what's going to happen to you here. So let me help you. But yeah, it's going to help me. And Rocky is just like, I don't need your help. I've already got the fight set. I've been guaranteed my purse. Everything's done.
Yeah.
Which to be fair, like he's done a good job because he had no manager and he managed to secure himself 150 grand. Like,
Yeah, but I'd say with a manager that probably could have been a lot more.
probably could have been, but like you're still thinking like at that.
Well, then again, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have been because he's technically a nobody.
The thing is, would they pay him?
Once it's in the contract, they'd have to pay him. Well, they could loophole him out of it.
That's what I was thinking. There's gonna be some sort of loophole where
I'd say there was a loophole that you had to survive X amount of rounds.
Yeah, there was something in there, I would say, and they were going to screw him over. But Mickey, you know, he eventually he kind of tells Mickey he's not bothered, and then he's shouting down the road, or well, he's shouting from his house, and you can still hear him out on the road. And then he clearly feels bad, which is again just shows like Rocky's character. He's just like he doesn't want to, you know, screw anyone over.
Yeah, well, Mickey has let him in the gym, and
yeah, and I think that's the sort of thing. He's like, you know, Mickey's always let me train there, even when I was down on my luck. I was always still at the gym, and Mickey might be a dick, but he still let me come in and stuff like that. And he runs up to Mickey, and you can see them kind of reconcile. And you're like, right, Mickey is now
the trainer
going to be his manager. And then he gets in, and he's like, you see him training, and he's working body shots, and Mickey brings, he's like, this is your cook guy, which is a very strange profession. You know,
no, it's Cutman is a big thing in boxing.
Yeah, but it's a strange profession. You know, this is a guy who just, you know, cleans up your cuts mid-fight and stuff.
Well, I'd say he's a doctor.
Yeah,
or like he was at some stage a doctor.
He was, but like we see in this film a little bit later, he's like, cut my eye so I can see. So like a cut man is also there to.
Well, you're not allowed to do that.
No, not anymore.
I don't think you ever were.
No, I don't know. In the 70s, you might have been allowed.
Well, you might be able to do whatever you want, but as far as I know, in boxing, you were never allowed to do that.
Yeah,
that's why. That's why in, you know, like even in now in Creed.
Yeah.
There's a cut me, and he's like, how many fingers? And he's tapping him on the back.
Yeah.
But like obviously it's the owner from this one. But as far as I know in boxing, you were never. If your eye starts to swell, that's it.
Yeah, true.
Once you can't see, you're a danger to yourself.
It's hard to tell because the 70s were a very different time in terms of
he does it.
You do whatever you
but
want.
What I love here is he actually does it. You can see the switchblade.
Yeah.
Or the standing knife. He just nips it.
Yeah.
And the blood doesn't just trickle out; it squirts out.
Yeah, and he's like,
oh.
I need to be able to see. But like, you know, we see that, you know, he's starting to build this group behind him to help him in the fight. Paulie is still trying to make a quick.
We've kind of just went over one here, where it's Christmas and Paulie comes back and he's hammered.
Yeah. And
he's talking to Adrian. He's like, Paulie wants me this and that, and he's like, Paulie's nobody. I can't do anything for him.
Yeah,
and he's like I'm no charity case. And he comes in, he takes the bat out,
starts swinging at stuff, and he's like, I got you two together, and you're like, okay, technically I suppose you did, but I mean, it's not
technically like, he didn't. He just forced her to go out. Like Rocky was chasing her anyway.
Yeah, but I think in his mind, he's like, she never would have gone out with Rocky had I not forced it, which might be kind of correct. So I can see where he gets that idea from. Yeah. Like, but this is the way he thinks. He's like, you would never be with her if it wasn't for me. You'd never be in this fight if it wasn't for me. You'd never be this. You'd never be that. Like, and this is where he says to her, you know, like, I'm not married because I have you here. And, you know, he's swinging the bat and everything.
And she tees off on him here.
Then she tees off and she's like, I cook for you. I clean for you. I do your laundry. Like, you would be nothing without me. And, you know, he kind of whimpers down.
Well, he says something to her, and then Rocky grabs him.
What he says to her is, "You're broken. You're not a virgin anymore." That's what he says to her.
And then Rocky grabs him. Yeah.
And then that's when Rocky grabs him. But he's already he's already sitting on the sofa here, and he's let go of the bat by her standing up to him. You know, that's been a big enough shock for him.
Yeah, it's over now.
Then Rocky comes over and he's whimpering and stuff. Like you can hear
he's terrified he's gonna get battered.
I think it's both terrified he's going to get battered, but also he's terrified that he's just lost everything. Like he knows he went too far here because he's like it's now sinking in. Oh, she's right. She does do all those things for me. Like no, I wouldn't be able to do any of that when she leaves. And you know,
I love how she walks out here and is like, "Do you want to room me?"
yeah, like he walks into her room and she's like, "Do you want a roommate?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then then we get to the boxing scene where we see the cut man. But then Paulie shows up and he's like, "I've thought of a way to make money off your name." And Rocky is just like, "Oh yeah, do whatever you want, Paulie." Like he's like, I don't hold anything against you." And you can see he's just like,
But we're done.
Paulie is my friend, but I don't want anything to do with you. Like,
yeah, he's a snake in the grass, though. Really,
he is. Like, he's a horrible person. Like, and you know, obviously you look at it and you're like, he's an alcoholic, so there is that. But you're like, this guy is just a piece of shit, like as well.
yeah, he treats everyone around him like it.
Yeah, but this is when we see Rocky go down to the ring early in the morning.
But it's not. It's early in the morning so it's just obviously gone past New Year's Eve.
Well, she's still in bed, you know, and he goes down to where the fight is going to be, and it's like it's already all set up. It looks immaculate. We see the picture of Creed in his gear, and then it pans around to him in his gear, and you're like, oh, he's in his red trunks with the white stripe. And then the promoter
it's very apparent.
Yeah, the promoter comes out and he's like, "You have the what are you doing here, Rocky?" And he's like, "Oh, I just came down to see it. You have the sign wrong, by the way." And he's like, "What?" "I'm in white trunks with red stripes." And your man's like, "Who cares? You know, nobody's going to be looking at that anyway."
You're gonna give us a show.
Yeah, and you can see Rocky's face kind of drop here, and it's when he realizes nobody's giving me a chance. Like even the promoter is just like, "You're just here for the show." Like,
well, that's it though. That was always the case.
It was, but I don't think like this is where Rocky's kind of naivety got to him, where he didn't think that he was just being brought in. Like he thought that he'd been handpicked.
Someone gave him a chance.
Well, like he'd been told that Apollo handpicked him because he'd been watching his fights and stuff. Like he thought he was picked because Apollo thought he'd be a good opponent, and now he's learned that no, like you're just a nobody. And he goes back to his house and Adrian's there, and he's like. She's like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And he's like, "I can't beat him. Like, I know I can't beat him." And he's like, "All I want to do now is last 15 rounds with him. No one's ever gone the distance. I want to go the distance."
Well, like, no matter what happens here, right? So you wouldn't even say a professional. No, theoretically, he's professional, but he's a jobber.
No, he's a semi-pro, like.
Yeah. But if you go the distance with the world champion, you're going pro. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose.
Exactly, but I don't think he's thinking of it that way. He's just like, it's just what I want.
Oh yeah, no, he set himself the goal now of going the distance.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going, I want to go the distance, because even if he went 6 rounds, he would have probably been able to go pro.
Oh yeah, he would have got a fight, a top 10 fight, and see what happens.
But I think to him it was just like it's a one-off chance, and I just want to make myself look good. I want to do myself proud. Like that's all that mattered to him was
that could have been his last fight. Theoretically, the damage that he would have sustained in that fight should have been his last fight.
Yeah. So he goes back down, and it's fight day, and he's putting the robe and everything on, and she comes out and he's like, "Does this robe look baggy?" And she's like, "No, it looks fine." He's like, "Don't leave town."
He tells her that twice though.
Yeah, you notice that a lot in this film, that he says the same thing twice very quickly, because he's obviously taken a few too many shots to the head. Like,
yeah, but like
he goes out and we see the shamrock meats.
I love here that when Mickey says to him, he's like,
"You're not a billboard, Rocky."
Yeah, he's like, "What did you get for that?" He's like, "Paulie got $3,000. I got the robe."
Yeah. And he's like, "I'm just helping a friend out." So again, like even though he thinks Paulie's like he recognizes that Paulie is Little Snake, he's like,
he's out there getting him $3,000.
He's like, I can still help him out, and Paulie is still like, "Hey, Rocky, can I do this for you?" And like the little girl has her little flag and is waving it and everything, and he goes over and like rubs her on the head and he's shaking hands with everyone. Like to him this is great. He's loving life.
Yeah, but he's in his hometown as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's nobody cheering for him.
Yeah. I love though, like it goes to the commentators, they're talking, they're like, "Oh, there's a murmur over there. Could this be the challenger?"
Yeah. And he comes out
because that's the case.
And there's no fanfare or anything for him. Like as I said, people are putting their hands out and want to slap his hand. And there is a little bit of, we've seen him running through the streets and people are like throwing him oranges and cheering him and stuff. And obviously everyone at the bar,
once they realized who he was.
Yeah, and then he's at the bar and everyone's cheering for him at the bar and stuff. But at the actual fight, there's a resounding cheer for Apollo at the start of this. Everyone is cheering Apollo.
But even if you go back and watch, I know I keep going back to the Ali Frazier fight.
Well, it's what's based off a bit, like.
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't think he'll ever probably admit to it fully, but
no, but it's partially off of it. Yeah,
but like if you go back and watch that, Joe Frazier's from Philly.
Yeah.
And he got a good reception, but Ali got a major reception. But Ali was the difference in boxing.
Well, that's the thing. Like, and this is what Apollo is meant to be. He's this world star that everyone loves, and you know, but he comes out, and you know, you can see Apollo's got this massive fanfare. He's got, you know, the whole like stars and stripes, and he's out on the
money.
He's throwing out money, and he's dressed up as, you know, Washington, and then he gets in, and he's Uncle Sam with the hat and all on.
I want you. I want you.
What I love is that Rocky keeps making like questions to Mickey, and he's like, "Oh, what's this guy doing?" Like, well,
is he talking to me? I think he's talking to you.
Yeah, it's just all like real simple stuff where like Rocky's taking this real seriously, and Apollo is just like, "Yeah, this is just another walk in the park." And even when the fight starts, the commentators say it like Apollo hits like 4 or 5 clean shot jabs on him, and they're just like, and Rocky misses a shot, and then Apollo hits him a few more, and Rocky misses another one, and he's like,
he's blocking them with his head. Yeah,
they're like, oh, he's blocking them with his head. He's like, Apollo doesn't look very good here either. You know, his footwork's not great or anything. And like you can see, and they're like, Apollo's just sitting around smiling. You know, this is all fun and games to him. And then Rocky catches him and knocks him down.
It was the big one though, because Apollo goes to throw the left hook,
and he ducks under it.
He got absolutely flat. Like nowadays, if that shot was landed, the referee's calling that off nearly straight away, I'd say.
Yeah. But this is what I like is that he does knock him down, and the commentators are like, oh, it's the first time he's ever been knocked down. And it gets to like a 7 or an 8 count. It's not like,
well, most counts then did.
I know, but it's not like, you know, it was you know, he caught me
knockdown,
yeah, like he caught me, I slipped because I wasn't expecting it, and I'm up by 3 or 4. Like this was
flattened,
and they say it, they're like, that was a big hit, like and that, like, this is where we hear that, you know, he's never been knocked down before, no one's ever gone the distance with him before. Like, this guy is damn near untouchable, and this nobody Rocky has put him down, like.
Then again, you go back to AJ and Ruiz. The untouchable, unbeatable AJ.
Yeah, knocked out fairly quickly by Ruiz. But you know, the round 1 kind of goes on a little bit where Rocky just keeps getting battered here and gets punched in the nose, and that's when it ends.
He broke your nose.
Yeah, this is what I like, where they do come back to it. They're like, "Oh, he broke your nose," and even, like, a few times in the film, Mickey is referred to him having never had his nose broken. He refers to it when he's talking to Adrian. He's like, "I never had my nose broken." Like,
I've had people twist it, box it, chew on it.
Yeah, never been broken. And like, I like that. It's just a nice little bit. You know, he's after breaking your nose, and you're like, "Oh."
Well, a boxer to never have his nose broken is probably unheard of.
Yeah, and you're like, "Oh, this could be a big deal. Like, he's finally had his nose broken. Is this going to affect his?" Because, you know, having your nose broken would, you know, swell up your eyes, tear up your eyes. And you're like, this could be the difference for him. Like,
yes, in fact, it does.
But then it cuts over to Apollo's corner, and his corner man is just like, this guy doesn't think this is an exhibition. Get out there and end this.
Get this bomb and we go home.
Yeah, and it just shows that, like, this is the guy who's been watching the tapes of Rocky. Well, not the tapes, but like the training thing that was on the telly of Rocky, and he's like, I knew we should have looked at this guy more. I said not to take him because he's a southpaw. I said to watch him training. And Apollo just thought this was all a joke, and now we've just had our ass handed to us, because even if this fight ended in the next round, Rocky knocked you on your ass. Like, you've been embarrassed as the world champion here.
So theoretically he lost that first round.
I don't know, because it's one knockdown, but he lands about 40 other punches on.
Yeah, but usually, well, Rocky lands a few as well.
Rocky lands a couple, but I think the sheer volume of punches, it would be close.
Normally,
a knockdown would normally, but I think it's the sheer volume of, like, actual punches could swing it back.
Maybe to a 9-all, but he was never going to win that round. Then once he was knocked down, he was hardly going to win the round unless he knocked him down twice.
Yeah, he's definitely lost that round. And then we get into the second round, and Apollo kind of dominates him the second round and knocks him down.
I'll tell you what, though, for actors in a boxing scenario,
it looked quite good.
Yeah, very well. Like, Carl Weathers was brilliant as Apollo.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Like, just the two of them were brilliant. Like, for this whole scene.
Yeah.
But they're like, this is the only bit, like, I would like a little bit more of the boxing scene in this. That's why the fight scene in 2 is better. Much better. Yeah. See, if you're a fan of boxing, you kind of want to see more. If you're not, I suppose this is probably enough.
Boxing for me is better than MMA and things like that because there's probably a lot more skill in MMA, but there's something about watching two really good boxers.
There's a strategy in boxing that is not that it's not there in MMA, but it's more noticeable in boxing.
Yeah, like if you watching Floyd Mayweather is
exactly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But like we watch them, have a few fight. Like there's a few rounds. We see round 1 and 2. We see bits of round 3. And then it's round 5. Then it's round 7 and round
11.
9.
Is it 9, 11, 13 then?
Yeah, and we see a shot gets landed here. Rocky lands a shot on Apollo here. Apollo knocks Rocky down. Rocky knocks Apollo down. It's it's just being built that they're both battering each other. And then we get to round 14.
He's so far there's not too much damage on either person really. His face is a bit bruised and a bit of swelling.
Both of them have pretty busted up faces, which doesn't really make sense because Rocky doesn't really work the face. They should have had more focus on Apollo's body.
It wasn't until 14 when.
Yeah, which is kind of the problem. But we see Rocky get knocked down, just kind of come up to the end of 14, and we see Mickey saying to him, "Just stay down, stay down."
So that's one knockdown apiece.
Well, no, you'd assume that there's been knockdowns in between, and they just kind of haven't showed them.
No, I think they make this out that it's one knockdown apiece.
It could be, yeah. You don't really
we'll get into it obviously in a few minutes. But when the judges read out the scores, tell you that it's.
Yeah, but if there's been a knockdown in say round 6 and then a knockdown in round 7,
I think they would have showed you. I would have told you, especially because he hadn't been knocked down before. If Rocky knocked him down a second time, I think it would have been a big part to it.
I think if it was if we were watching the actual fight, it would be. But I think in this, they were as long as we show him knocking him down once, that's a big enough deal. I don't. It gives really know.
It gives Rocky the impetus that he can win.
Yeah, possibly. But we just see them. The two lads are pretty battered, and Rocky gets knocked down, and Mickey is telling them, "Do not get back up. This is over.
Stay down."
And Rocky manages to get himself back up at about 8 or 9. And
he gets up at 7 and he's like this, trying to get his right hands to the ref.
It doesn't look great. The ref should be stopping this here.
Oh, he was out on the ground there. He was dead and buried.
But again, I suppose people said that about a certain Tyson, not Mike Tyson.
He was dead.
And then he did the Undertaker sit up. He was grand.
Do you know what there was one thing here that I didn't really like. So when he knocks Apollo down in the first round, he keeps going and going and going for him, which gave Apollo more time to get up.
Yeah.
Normally the referee would tell him to get back and start counting straight away.
Yeah.
Where this referee was trying to push him back and push him back.
Yeah. And I think that's
overall Apollo's down for about 30 or 40 seconds.
Yeah. I think this is, where if you're not a big boxing fan, you're kind of you don't catch that bit.
Yeah.
So I think if you're a boxing fan, you can see a problem with it. If you're not, you don't.
Now, within saying that, it could be different in the 70s. If you keep trying to taunt someone on the ground, the referee might have stayed with you.
Yeah.
But now they'll tell you to go to your corner and start counting.
But we see Apollo after this knockdown is walking off. He's certain that he has this one.
I love the look on his face when he gets up.
Yeah. And then, they start sparring a little bit, and then Rocky gets a couple of body shots in on Apollo again here, and one big one at the end.
And you can hear it.
You can hear it, and it gets back to Apollo's corner, and Apollo's he's broken your ribs. Your man is I'm gonna call the fight, and it's you're gonna give up. That means Rocky wins. If you say I'm gonna call the fight's over. Rocky wins.
I love this though, because Creed comes back and he's sitting on the chair and he's like, "You won't believe it, he broke my rib," and he's like, "You're bleeding on the inside. I'm gonna call this." He's like, "You're not gonna call anything. If you're the world champion going into round 15 with a broken rib, and your corner is about to throw in the towel, you're firing him."
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "No, don't." And we hear the same on the other side. Rocky says to Mickey, he's like, "Do not throw the towel in no matter what." And then he says,
"I'm going the distance."
And then he says, "I need to be able to see out of my eye. Cut it." And he's like, "Are you sure?" "Yes, do it now." So they cut it.
Yeah, I love that the ref hasn't, obviously in boxing, from watching it, now the ref comes over and asks them. Yeah. He comes over and asks Apollo.
And that's when they cut.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when he cuts on the other side. So maybe you're right. Maybe it isn't allowed, but it's done anyway.
Yeah. It's done very well as well. Because it looks like he has the thing close to his eye.
Yeah.
And then just nips underneath it.
Yeah, at this point we see that Adrian has wandered out to watch the fight live. She's not in the back anymore.
Yeah, she's standing at the back corridor where he came out.
Yeah, and then we have round 15, and Rocky is landing some serious body shots. Apollo's landing some shots as well, and then it gets to the end of it, and the two boys are clinched up, and Apollo's just like, there ain't gonna be no rematch, and he's like, I don't want one.
There's something here that happens, right? So with the last 40 seconds or so, when Rocky's on top, Rocky nails him, puts him on the ropes, and is landing clean shots on him while he's bent back over the ropes.
It should be stopped there.
How has the referee not stopped that?
Yeah, I know, but I think,
you know what I mean? Like, he hasn't bent back and he's just straight jabbing him in the face. Like,
and again, this is where, if you're a fan of boxing, you're like, not realistic. But if you're not, you're like, okay, maybe, because earlier in the first scene, Rocky had your man on the ropes and just kept battering him before the ref stopped it. Then,
but that wasn't like, this is a bit different though, because Apollo hasn't got his hands up or anything.
I know, yeah, but I think that's the point, is that if you're not a boxing fan, you don't recognize that like Rocky should have been stopped the round before as well, sort of thing. Like there's a few inconsistencies to actual boxing here. One of which some people might think is that there was 15 rounds, but back then 15 rounds was the norm. For
15 rounds only changed not so long ago though.
I know, but a lot of people might look at that and say, well, there's no 15 rounds. That was the thing back then for a long, long time. 15
I think
rounds.
that only might have changed. Because I know
it's a good couple of years now.
I can't remember. Probably about 2000, maybe.
Yeah, but that's still 20 years ago,
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
It's a long time. Like, it's a lot of people wouldn't remember that. But
championship rounds, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah. But we see, like the fight ends and Apollo kind of whispers into Rocky's ear, there's no rematch. And Rocky just says to him, I don't want a rematch. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, he done what he set out to do.
Yeah. And I do like that. Like, Rocky is like, I managed 15 rounds, and we see Paulie trying to sneak his way into the ring here, and he's like,
that's my mate.
That's my mate. And they're just like, nah, you're not getting in. And Adrian has managed to work her way up, and every time they try to ask Rocky a question, he just keeps shouting Adrian's name into the microphone.
Yeah. There was also one other bit that you see in this, that throughout the rounds, nearly every round it shows, it goes to the loan shark.
Yeah.
Go for it, Rock.
go for it, Rocky. But Adrian manages to get into the ring, and
she tips Paulie on the leg and was like, Paulie, he lifts the ring, the rope up,
and she manages to get in. What I like here is that we hear from the ring announcer, he's like, it's a split decision. And he's like, so round the first judge gives it to Apollo, and you see Apollo has his hands up and he's cheering.
8-7,
and you see Apollo cheering. It's from there, that's when Adrian gets into the ring, and there is everything is now background noise. You can barely hear what's in the background. It's focused on, she tells Rocky, I love you. He says, I love you. They kiss, but then just the background you hear, your winner and still champion is Apollo. But that is secondary. Like,
Rocky won the other judge 9-7.
Yeah.
Or not 8-7.
8-7, and then the last judge gives it, I think, 8-7 as well.
Yeah, it's a round in the difference.
Yeah, but what I like is that you don't hear that. Like, that's like really low down in the background.
Because he doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Like, he's got everything he got 15 rounds, and now he can just go live with Adrian.
It would have been hilarious if
he were
like, and I was like, I knew, and he's just like, wait, what?
Wait, me? But I like this, is that, like, in these sort of underdog stories, always expect that the underdog will win. And this is what, like, I know I said earlier that someone commented Rocky didn't win and they didn't like that. I love that he didn't win. I think this is a great twist to a story this.
This was brilliant.
Like the fact that he managed to get 15 rounds is incredible. The fact that he knocked him down, incredible.
I don't care if I talked to 2,000 people, 3,000 people, however many people went to see this when it came out. Not one person went into that movie thinking he's going to lose that fight.
Exactly. And like, when you look back on Rocky, right? And I know, because you're a big fan of it, as like the same way I am. And a lot of people who,
how could you not be though?
A lot of people who watch this are going to be big fans, so they'll probably say I'm a bit mental thinking this. But when you think of Rocky, if you go up and talk to like most people and be like, do you remember in Rocky 1 when he fights Apollo? Most people will be like, yeah, he wins. Like, their natural thought process is that he wins because it's an underdog story and he wins.
It's the double knockdown, yeah. No, sorry, pal.
That's not this film. A lot of people think that Rocky wins in the first one. That's what I think is great about this. Rocky doesn't win in the first one, so it's not like you need to go and make Rocky 2 because he's now champion or anything like that.
Yeah.
You need to make Rocky 2 because he's now the guy who went 15 rounds with the champion.
The reason that you need to make Rocky 2 because they needed to embellish and impart on Creed's ego.
Exactly, but also the fact that Rocky, you're not getting a second chance, but you did go 15 rounds with the champ that no one has ever done before.
But it's the same kind of process when you talk to people about the likes of Friday the 13th 1. When you say Friday the 13th 1, oh yeah, Jason, no, it's his ma.
Yeah,
I mean, there's movies that people always misconstrue.
Yeah,
like what happens
because you're so used to that being that, like, because Rocky wins and all the other films really.
Well, he loses and he wins in 3.
Yeah, but like by the end of it, he's the victor. Whereas in this one, I suppose technically he is the victor. He's made a lot of money,
but
and
he comes out the better of the two because of what happened.
Yeah, but he doesn't actually win the fight, which a lot of people forget when they think about Rocky.
Yeah,
which I think is great because it's such an iconic film that you should remember that. Oh yeah, he doesn't win, but they make the fact that he didn't win the fight so minimalistic because they're like, well, he won everything else.
Yeah, you don't even hear it.
He got to win. He got to fight the world champion. He's with the girl he loves. Everything seems to have worked out well for him when he had such a bad life. Well, not like bad life, but he was down on his luck.
It was a rough life.
Yeah, he had a rough life before that, and now it's everything's kind of come up for him. And they're like, he doesn't care about the loss, so you as the viewer shouldn't be too concerned with whether he loses. But they do make sure to make it just loud enough that you hear that he didn't win.
The main thing you hear is obviously you hear the commentator or the ring announcer being like, and still, and then you hear Creed's corner go off.
Yeah, and you can see Creed in the background kind of cheering as well. But like that's what I like is that they don't leave it open where you're like, oh, did he win or did he not? Like they definitely make sure that it's just loud enough that you know that he lost.
Yeah.
But not so loud that it's the focus, and Rocky doesn't react to it at all.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah, which is what it's so good. And this is what I'm saying. Like this is, although it is a sports film, and I do agree with you that it probably is the best sports film made. It might not be people's favorite. It's definitely not my favorite because obviously the greatest film for me ever made was Space Jam, and that's a sports film, so that's the best sports film.
False.
But no, it's not false. It's the greatest film ever made. Nothing can beat it. This doesn't have any of the big names in it.
Shall we ring up Carl Sherlock and ask him to go back through his sports movie one on the Sherlock reel?
He didn't put Space Jam in because he knew it would win.
Nice shout out to our Retrotainment recast host, Carl Sherlock.
our latest Retrotainment recast loser. Depending
you had to throw that in, didn't you?
Depending on when you're watching this, I suppose. Maybe he's beaten me by now, but so far, no. I'm the champion. I'm the Apollo.
Now.
For now. But I think this is where some people would argue that this isn't a sports film, even though it's based around boxing. There's less emphasis on boxing than there is his life.
This could go into probably numerous categories. It could go into it like, all right, I know it's not fully based off anybody, but it could nearly be a biopic.
Yeah, it could, but I think this is where you were saying that you think it's one of the best sports films. Some people might argue that it's not. Now, I would agree that it is a sports film, 100%, because it's based. The whole premise is boxing. If you take boxing out of this,
it's just some random fella that breaks people's thumbs.
Well, the film doesn't.
Or doesn't.
The film doesn't make sense because he wouldn't be in the boxing club. He wouldn't be fighting this boxer. So what else would he be doing? It's just some guy just wandering around. So to me, it is a sports film. It's the same way with Die Hard. If you take Christmas out of Die Hard, the rest of the film doesn't work, which is what makes it a Christmas film. This is definitely a sports film.
Best Christmas film, we'll say.
Yeah, but even though it's not conventionally a Christmas film, like a conventional Christmas film is, Santa and, all this happy, good feeling thoughts. That's the same with this. It's not conventionally sports where the main focus seems to be sports, but if you take the sport out of it, the same way if you take Christmas out of Die Hard, the film doesn't work.
Yeah. There's certain sports films where you can take the sport out and it still would work.
Yes.
like theoretically the story that comes with Remember the Titans, for instance.
Possibly, I
like
don't know.
The story of the race war that went with it.
You could make a film without it, but
Yeah.
I think the way Remember the Titans is done, you need the sport as well.
Yeah, but I'm more so saying like the
actual
message
story,
that came with it. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you took this film and it wasn't didn't have the boxing, you'd be looking more at a sort of rom-com genre. If
Like
you had to take that out and replace it with something else, I think.
The only thing like you could say, like if this made it all the way to the main fight and didn't show you the fight, you could say it's not a sports film.
But you'd still have to, like, if you took out the fact that he was a boxer, or like even just that it just referenced he was a boxer, like, oh yeah, he's a boxer. And that was it. That was the only reference to boxing. There was no boxing club. There was no Mickey. There was none of that. Then I wouldn't say it was a sports film.
Yeah.
But the fact that all of that stuff is necessary to get you from point A to point B, that's what makes it a sports film.
And it's fantastic storytelling.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Through, and through the whole thing, like
as we said, fair play to Stallone for sticking to his guns and being like, I want to be the one in it, because I genuinely, like, obviously we do the Retrotainment recast. Like, if we ended up doing this, I don't know if I could recast Stallone.
I might see about imposing a ban on this.
Yeah, so like, I don't know if you could recast Stallone, because, you know, he's just too iconic in the role, in the sense that, like, he wrote it and said, like, I'm not doing this. If I'm not the person, I'm not doing it.
But ironically, like, if you think about it, if we were to do this on recast, all right, I know Carl's not here for this chat here, but it could really, like, the only person you could say is Michael B. Jordan, because that's what they've done.
Yeah, exactly. That, and we did discuss this before, where we were like, you couldn't do Rocky because you just have to look again. Yeah, you just have to look at it that way. But as we continue into the rest of our sports September, this was a great film to pick. Obviously, this is your pick, but I think I'd kind of picked it as well.
This was just this is, so we kind of went one each, and then two we agreed on together.
Yeah, this one we were kind of like, yeah, we should definitely do that one. So,
it was one pick each, and then we might have a
we'll see
one in the middle.
We'll see if we can get other people on. But this for me was a dead cert. Like, that had to be done.
Sports movies, and it's not Rocky. It's not Sports September.
Yeah, so we'll call it here for this week, and we'll see you again next week. Good luck.
All the best.